In the last session, we have seen how to create the primary ledger, and we specified ledger options. Ledger options are nothing but we primarily give in retained earnings account code combination. Now, to take example, here we have three companies, right? In our primary ledger, as a part of chart of accounts, we have three companies like 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000. 1,000 days MX Financial Services, 2,000 days consulting, 3,000 days BPO. So that's how we given the description. Now we have three companies. If you want to run any company in any country, we have to go for the registration. You have to go for the registration. To run these three companies in one country, how many registrations are required? One is enough. You may run multiple businesses, different companies or different vertical of businesses. One registration is enough in one country. To run these three companies, say we have a single registration. For each business, you can have a separate registration also. Okay, ideally one would be enough. To run these three companies, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, which are financials, consulting, and BPO services, the registration, what we have, the registration information we have to create in the system as legal entity. We have to create legal entity. Short name is LE. We have to create LE, legal entity. Legal entity means company registration information. How many legal entities we have to create? How many registrations we have to run companies? Those many legal entities we have to create. Fine. Say you're running three businesses, financial, consulting, and BPO, and you have a single registration. The same information we have to record in the system as a legal entity information. Legal entity is nothing but company registration information. Now, when you register the company, you have to register the company with some location. That may be your corporate office address or head office address or any other address. With certain address, you have to go for the registration. Okay, where you have your physical organization addressing that, you have to create the location. The system, what we have to do. So with which address we have our company registration, that address we have to create in the system as legal address. Okay, call it as legal address. Say create legal address. Okay, create legal address. Legal address is nothing but the company registration address. Company registration address. We have to create the legal address. Legal address is nothing but company registration address. With which address we have a company registration, that address. After creating legal address, with that address you can create the legal entry. Legal entry is nothing but company registration information. Okay, what is the registration number, etc. All the details we have to provide within this. And another point here is, if you are going to create the address, we require the country address style. If you are going to create the address for US, you have to select the address belongs to which state, and within the state which county, within the county which city, within the city which postal code. This is the address style for US. In the same way, every country you can see the default address style. As per the address style, we have to create the address. The address may be related to your legal entity address, that means company registration address. The address may be related to your suppliers or your customers, or it could be your warehouse address. It could be any address. We have to follow the specific address style as per the country, for which country you are creating the address. You no need to enter all the details in the system. Okay, when you create address, you no need to create that is belongs to which state and which county, which postal code or which city. You no need to enter all the data. For most of the countries, Oracle is providing the complete address related data. Means based on the country address style, Oracle is providing the data. If you take example as US, for US, they are providing within the US, what are the states we have? Within the states, how many counties we have, what are those? And what are the different cities we have within the US? And what are the different postal codes for respective cities? All the information Oracle is providing in every instance. Every instance, Oracle is providing the data. So now what we have to do is, when we are going to do the implementation, we have to activate those addresses related data. How to activate the data, we'll go and see. Go to setup and maintenance task. Go to setup and maintenance and go to task list. Click on search. To find out all the data which Oracle is providing country-wise, go to task called as Manage Geographies. Okay, search for Manage Geographies. This is a task. Manage Geographies. Click on Manage Geographies. And you are going to do the implementation for which country? Say you are implementing for US client. Search for US. Okay, provide country code as US. Search. Just click on search. It will fetch the country record. In the first instance, what we have to do is, after finding the country, you have to go to actions and you have to click on import geography data. You have to click on import geography data. If you click on import geography data, for US country, what is the structure Oracle is providing, which is standard structure for that country? As per the structure, automatically system will activate the data. All the states, all the counties, all the cities, all the postal codes, the complete data system would activate when you click on import geography data. Here it is disabled. The reason, within this instance, already that is submitted. How to submit? Find the country, go to actions, click on import geography data. Automatically the data will get activated. And here you can find what is the structure for US, address structure. Here we have structure defined. Click on the tick mark. You can see what is the structure Oracle is providing. State, within the state, county, within the county, city, within the city, postal code. If you want to add something else, you can add. You can add, but system won't load the data. You have to maintain the data separately if you add something. This is the Oracle provided. If you use this as this, you will get the complete, all the states, all the counties, all the cities, all the postal codes data. So this is seeded. You don't need to touch this. And go to hierarchy defined. Click on tick mark. As per the structure, whatever we have seen just now, you can see the data. Within the United States, these all are the states. You can see all are the states. If you expand any one of the state, within the state, you can see what are the counties are available. These are the different counties within the state. And you can expand any one of the county. Within the county, what are the cities are available, you can see. If you expand any one of the city, you can find the postal code. Okay, within the postal code, nothing. That is the endpoint. The state, county, city, postal code. This is standard address style for US. If you are going to use this address style, automatically will get the data from Oracle only. This data would be available in the instance only, but what we have to do is you have to activate. How to activate? Find country, go to actions, click on import geography data. It will load the structures, it will load the hierarchies also. If you want to add any value, you can add it. Say for example, okay, under this county, you want to add one city. Yes, you can add it. You can select what you want to add. City you want to add. City will be under county. So select county, you can click on add. You can just add like this. Text you can enter for testing, but reality not required. If any new postal codes, new cities, new states, etc., Oracle will take care of all those. Okay, so it is added as one of the city. Okay, this is what we added just now. Not required. Okay, I'm deleting that. Just for our understanding purpose, we are taking that point. You no need to add anything. Okay, everything Oracle will provide. Say there are some new cities, okay, formed in US. So those also Oracle will update in every instance, because all instances are controlled by Oracle. Those also system will, Oracle will update. That's how you can find all those. And one more point here is, so just you have to click on import geography data. Rest all system will take care. It will load the address type, structure, it will load the data. And here you can go to validation defined section. Here, enable these checkboxes. Here, by default, all will get enabled, but notice it. Say you are going to create one address, maybe for your legal entity, means your registration address. It could be your inventory warehouse related address, or else it could be supplier address or customer address. So you have to select state, county, city, postal code. All states, counties, city, postal codes Oracle is providing. When we are going to select, you need LOV, list of values, Okay, we have to just, this should be enabled. Okay, this should be enabled. If you see like this, you should enable. By default, system enables all. Okay, but if you see like as disabled, enable it, so that whenever you create address, okay, all the states you can find as a drop down. You can click like drop down. If you disable this, when you select, if you want to select the county, no values system will display. You have to enter exact name. If you enter wrong name, the system will reject. Okay, so just make sure that these all checkboxes are enabled. Tax validation also enabled. When we calculate the tax, we'll see that. And geography validation. If these are disabled, then geography validation is required. Ideally, all will display whatever the data we have. Just this is what we have to understand. Okay. So here, make sure that for these 3 style formats, there's everything enabled. Okay, for no style format also enable it for everything. Now say save and close. Simple point here is we are not doing anything. Just we are checking to understand how Oracle is providing. What is our job in the fresh instance? When you do the implementation, for which country you are implementing, you have to find the country, go to actions, click on import geography data. If you are implementing for India, click on search, go to actions, click on import geography data. For India also, they submitted, because this is a practice instance already submitted. Okay, so that's how you can see. You can click on search and find all the countries. For most of the countries, Oracle is providing the geography data. For some country, Oracle is not providing. When you take the subscription for that country, Oracle can help you. Okay, primary countries, most of the countries where the Oracle application implementations already done are happening. For those, almost all the countries, Oracle is providing the geography data, predefined data for country as per the country address style. Okay. Here you can see for few countries that they're not loaded. Say for example, I'm selecting this country. Okay, I'm selecting this country. I'll go to actions. For this also, 1 second. Let system select. Yeah. Select it. I guess not loaded. Yes. Import geography data. This is how you can see as enabled in the first instance. If you click on import geography data for this country, system will load the geography. Say OK. The process is submitted for this country. It will load the data hierarchies, means as per the structure, it will load hierarchies and it will enable all the checkboxes. So whenever you submit that action, it will trigger the process, and that process you can see from this page. Go to tools. Under tools, we have a task called as scheduled processes. Click on scheduled processes. Here you can see system submitted the job called as import geography data, initiate import of geography data to staging tables. It will take into staging table. From there, it will take into the base tables. So this is how system will run the process. That's how the data would be available. Just try to understand this point. Here, you don't need to do anything. Simply you have to go to specific country, for which country you are going to create the addresses, and you submit import geography data. Okay. No other activity we have to do. Okay, the simple activities. Go to manage geographies. Which country you are doing the implementation. Say, for example, you are doing the implementation for US. You have suppliers and customers in India. If you have a suppliers and customers from India, when you create India suppliers and customers, you have to create address. That means India address style also required for us. So that means we have to load the data for US and India. Your client is running the business in US and they are doing the business with 5 other countries. Means they have a suppliers and customers from 5 other countries. Those 5 countries geography data also we have to import. Okay, the 5 countries geography data also we have to import. For any country you are going to implement, just search for that country. Okay, here you can see the structure defined. Okay, if you go here, you can see all the states. Okay, go to hierarchy defined, all the states, the districts, all you can see. These all are the different states. Say Andhra Pradesh. Here, these all are the different districts. If you expand it within the districts, okay, the mandals, nothing but towns they are giving type. Okay, so that's what.
So one question.
Yeah, please.
So if something is changed, for example, in Andhra Pradesh, if a new town or something is added, how
we can add. Just now I shown, right? We added city.
Yeah. So what you showed is manual step. Is there any automatic way? Maybe if Oracle updates, can we get those updates?
If they have many customers from that country who are using the Fusion, they do generally. Okay. Otherwise, sometimes they suggest, if they don't come up with the development of adding from their end, they'll suggest us, you can just add those and you can use it. Sometimes Oracle takes initiative, sometimes they just suggest us just only 1 value, 2 value, you can add and you can manage.
Okay,
they definitely they consider. They definitely they consider. When they come up with some latest, some patch applications, etc., they'll take care of those.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So this is what we have to understand. Okay, this geography data only we are going to use everywhere, wherever you create the address. Done. So just make a note of that point. Okay, manage. Say simply load geographies. We are not loading from outside of the system. Within the system only they are providing, we are activating for usage. Okay, load geographies data. Just remember this point. Now, we'll see how to create the legal address. Any questions on this point, please? So very simple. Legal entity is nothing but your company registration. You are running 3 companies, 3 vertical of businesses, 3 different type of businesses. For those 3 type of businesses, how many registrations you have? You have only 1 registration. For that 1 registration, okay, so you have to create 1 legal entity. For each registration, 1 legal entity you have to create. If you have only 1 registration, 1 legal entity, that registration we have with which address, that address we have to create in the system as a legal address. Fine. We'll see how to create the legal address. So here you can search for legal address. You can search from our implementation project. Directly you can use search page also. Okay, from anywhere you can do that. I'm going to create from here. Search for legal addresses. Task name is manage legal addresses. Click on this. Here you can find out the addresses which are already created with this criteria. We didn't create any address. We are going to create address. Now click on create. Now click on create. So the country, for which country you are creating address, that you can select. By default it is taking United States. There is one profile option for that, so that it is it's taking. And now simply you select the postal code. The postal code will be within the city will be within the county would be within the state. That hierarchy already we have seen. Accordingly, it will fetch the value. So select any one of the postal code. Just search for any one of the postal code. For testing purpose, anyone you can. I'm selecting this postal code. So here, it is displaying the city, county, and the state information. Select any one of the postal code which is belongs to city, so and so, county, and state, and say OK. Now it is default. This is how the address creation can be simplified by using that geography data. This is predefined data Oracle is providing. Okay. Done. Here you can give the address line 1 for our identification purpose. Okay. Here what name we are using? We are using Amex, right? Amex legal address. Reality, we get the data from client. The same you can prepare here as an address. Testing, we are testing for our identification purpose. I'm giving the name as Amex legal address and say okay. Now we are ready with legal address. Now we can create legal entity. Okay, now we can go and create legal entity. Let's see how to create the legal entity. Search for the task called as legal entity. Here is a task called as manage legal entity. Manage legal entity. And here, the name. What is our company registration name that you can provide? Okay, these are all details we get from the client with exactly with what name they have in their company registration, what is the registration number, all the details client will provide. Those we have to provide here. So our legal entity name is Amex USA legal entity. And legal entity identifier, that is nothing but registration number. By seeing that registration details, we can enter this number, the data you can get from the client. And payroll statutory unit. Payroll statutory unit. Are we going to run the payrolls in the organization with this registration only? If yes, you have to enable. So are we going to hire the employees with this registration only? You have to enable legal employer. Enable payroll statutory unit under legal employer for whatever the legal entity you create. Otherwise, this legal entity you cannot use where it is required. The legal entity what we are creating, that enable it as a payroll statutory unit and legal employer. Payroll statutory unit means what? You can place the cursor on this help icon. The legal entity registered to report payroll tax and the social insurance. They run the payrolls, they'll pay the tax to the government and the social insurance and all. They'll track and they'll deal with that. And legal employer means what? The company which is going to hire the employees. If you are running the payrolls or if you are hiring the employees, there should be one entity, your company registration. That is nothing but your legal entity. Okay. So this legal entity, this registration, okay, you have with which address that you can select here. Just now we created legal address. Select that legal address here. Click on search. The address line 1 we given as Amex legal address. Search. Okay, this is what we created, Amex legal address. Select this record and say OK. And select, okay, in or EN, depending on the country. Okay, depending on the country, the fields will be displayed. Here you have a jurisdiction. Based on the jurisdiction which is selected, it will display the fields here. Okay. You can just, by default, Oracle is providing that you can use. Here somebody changed in this instance. Ideally, you can go to jurisdictions task, you can see that. So manage jurisdictions. You can go to manage legal jurisdictions. Here you can click on search. You can search with the country called as US. United States. Now click on search. Okay. Drag little right here. So this is the one Oracle is providing as seeded for US. If you are implementing for some government organizations and all, accordingly, this is the one you can use. Yes, somebody created the testing. You don't need to create ideally. You don't need to create. Somebody created. That is the reason this name it is taken. This is a seeded one. You can use the seeded one. Okay, United States income tax. Here, see, this is marked as the identify. Means this only system will select when you create any legal entity. I'll just go to this. Okay. So identifying, I'll set to no for this. Just save and close. And manage legal jurisdictions. Select country. Search United States. Search. Okay. We removed, still it just displays, still you select another one. This is the one actual one, just in this instance for practice purpose, somebody changed it. So this is the one. Okay, United States federal tax, that you can click, select and click on edit, set as identifying as yes, save and close. Here, what information we have, if you notice here. Okay. So please go on mute. Somebody unmuted. Click on search. Now just here, now it is identified. Okay. This is one. Click on this. So here, legal entity registration code, what you want to select. That is based on the country. In which country, what, how you call the code, accordingly you can select. Okay. And the legal reporting unit registration code. So how in that respective country, okay, what are the data you have to enter related to registration that you can provide. Okay. So for US, this is a seried one, the same you can use. You don't need to change it, you don't need to create also. Now we'll go and create the legal entity. So you can create legal entity from here or from our project. Let's create from our project. Open project. Say legal entity. The task name is manage legal entity. Click on the task. Manage legal entity. Click on go to task icon. Now system is asking us, do you want to find out existing legal entity or else you want to create new legal entity? Yes, we are going to create new legal entity. Select value as a create new. Click on apply and go to task. Here you can see many legal entities which are created in this environment. Okay. So let's see how to create new legal entity. Click on create and provide name. So we are using the name as Amex, say Amex USA legal entity. And the legal entity identification number here for testing purpose, any number you can give, no issues. You should enable these two check boxes. Otherwise, with this legal entity, you cannot create employees. And this legal entity you cannot use in the payrolls application. Not only in the payroll, if you are going to create few setups, that legal entity we require as a payroll statutory unit. So make sure that you are enabling these two check boxes. Select your legal address. Here, see, whatever we identified that is defaulting here, jurisdiction. So legal address. Select legal address. It is Amex legal address. Say OK. And provide this TIN number or EN numbers. Any value you can provide. Reality, we get information from the client, the same you can enter. Now say save and close. This is how our legal entity will be ready, including our address. Okay. Just click on save and close. It will save automatically. Right? So we create a legal address and we create a legal entity. Now the question is, so where we have these companies, three companies, where we have. Okay, where we have these three companies.
In our lookup.
Sorry?
We have these companies defined in our lookup.
We have in the value set.
Yeah, value set. Yeah.
Okay, these three we have in the value set. The value set we assign to company segment. The company segment we have in the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts we have in
Accounting flexible.
Yes, that's true. And the same chart of accounts we have in
Ledger.
primary ledger, right? At the time of primary ledger creation, we selected chart of accounts. Where we can create the chart of account, that is accounting key flex field that already we discussed. But now where we have this, the chart of account we have in our primary ledger. Now I'll say simply the three companies we have in our primary ledger. Okay, the three companies we have in our primary ledger. Now, so these three companies we have in primary ledger. These three companies we have in company value set, or else you can say these three companies we have under company segment. Nothing wrong if you say. Okay, with the help of value set, these three companies are going to be under company segment only. For company segment, what label we assign? Company segment, which label we assign?
Balancing segment.
Balancing segment label, primary balancing segment label. Now, so this segment, company segment, we are calling as a company segment. When you assign the primary balancing segment label, you can call the segment with a label name. So when you assign the primary balancing segment label to company segment you can call as balancing segment. Okay. So we assign the primary balancing segment label to company. That is the reason company segment you can call as a company segment. Otherwise, you can call it as a balancing segment. Why we are calling as balancing segment? Balancing segment label is assigned. A natural account segment label we are assigning to account. Because we are assigning natural account segment to account segment, natural account segment label to account segment. Account segment you can call as natural account segment. How we are calling these segments as a balancing and natural account? Based on labels what we are assigning. Okay. To which segment we assign primary balancing segment label, that segment you can call as balancing segment. If I assign primary balancing segment label to department I can call as what?
Balancing.
Please respond.
Balancing segment.
Yeah. So you can call it the balancing segment, but we never assign primary balancing segment label to department. Ideally, we assign to company. Now you can say Company is a balancing segment. Why we are calling as balancing segment? Once we create transactions, you can understand. For now, you take these points. Okay. Primary balancing segment label we are assigning to company. That is the reason company you are calling as a balancing segment. Natural account segment label you are assigning to account. That segment you can call as natural account segment. When you create the chart of accounts, how many segments are mandatory?
2.
2. What are those?
Balancing segment and natural company and.
No, what we discussed, you tell me. Whatever we discussed, you tell me the same point.
So yeah, balancing segment and natural account segment.
We never discussed that. We discussed company and account.
Company and account, yes.
Yeah. So minimum 2 segments, those are company and account. Now company segment you can call as
Balancing segment.
That's it. Balancing segment. Account segment you can call as
Natural account segment.
natural account segment. Why we are calling these 2 segments as balancing and natural account? Because of labels what we are assigning. Now the point is minimum 2 segments are mandatory when you create the chart of accounts. Those 2 segments are balancing and natural account. Just remember this point. Okay, balancing segment and natural account segment, these 2 segments are mandatory. The initial, when we started discussing about chart of accounts, if I say 2 segments are mandatory, one is balancing, the other one is natural account, we cannot catch that. So that is the reason I was addressing company and account. Why company and account? To company only we are assigning primary balancing, for account we are assigning natural account. Based on the labels, we are calling those segments. You can call as company and account, but based on the labels only we have to call. If you don't know anything, you can say company and account. If you know the concept, we have to say 2 segments are mandatory. Those are balancing segment and natural account. Balancing segment means what? To which segment we are assigning primary balancing segment label, that segment is balancing. To which segment we are assigning natural account segment label, that segment we call as natural account segment. Now, so this segment is company. These values are what? This segment is company. These values we call as company values. Okay. Segment name is company. The values are company values. If you call company as a balancing segment, these values we can call as
Balancing values.
see company values. Company segment values. If I call it as a balancing segment, these values we can call as
Balancing segment values.
that's all.
Okay.
So when you call it as company values, when you call it as a balancing segment because of primary balancing segment label assignment, the values you call as balancing segment values, nothing but company values only based on the label we are calling. Now these 3 we call as balancing segment values. Here are companies. Okay, the 3 companies we call as balancing segment values. The short name is BSV. Now in our primary ledger, what we have balancing segment values. Nothing but 3 company values. Company we are assigning the primary balancing segment label. That is the reason that values we call as balancing segment values. Our primary ledger, we have 3 balancing segment values. Now what we have to do is these 3 balancing segment values we have to assign to legal entity. That means we have to create the mapping in the system. We are running these 3 companies. We are running these 3 companies with which registration? Okay. We are running these 3 companies with which registration that we have to specify. So how many legal entities we have? To those legal entities, we have to assign this balance and segment value. Okay, say legal entity LE. So how many legal entities we have? We have only 1 legal entity. Okay, legal entity 1. Only 1 legal entity you have. To run these 3 businesses, you have only 1 registration that we are calling as legal entity. Now, if you are running the 3 companies with the same registration, you have to assign these 3 balancing segment values to this legal entity. So that system will understand. If you are going to record the transaction with 1,000, automatically system will identify this transaction, this company related transaction need to be reported as per this registration. That's how system will understand. What we have to do? We have to assign the balance in segment values to legal entity. The company belongs to the company you are running with which registration. Company 1,000 we are running with the registration 1, legal entity 1, 2,000, 3,000, all we are running with the same registration. Say you have one more registration. Okay. Say you have total 2 registrations. It means 2 legal entities we have. Say 3,000. 3,000 company you are running as per this registration. Then you have to assign this balance in segment values to this legal entity. So this company value to this legal entity. This is what we have to understand. Now let's take the case as, so we are running the business in US. US we have only 1 registration. There we are doing 3 businesses. The same we have to specify in the system.
So one question, Lakshman, on the registration. So I mean, so when you say registration, it depends on the tax registration code.
Yeah, establishing the company, that registration. For different taxes, there could be different, the tax registrations are different. It's company registration we are talking about.
Okay, so
Based
on
on the
what
company registration only, the tax related party will handle. Company registration I'm talking. Yeah. Fine. Now this is how we have to do the mapping. Okay, which company you are running under which registration you have to specify. Now we have to assign these companies to this legal entity. Nothing but we are calling as balance and segment values. But you cannot assign balance and segment values to legal entities directly. First, we have to assign the legal entity to primary ledger so that within the primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have, those you can assign to legal entity. The very first step is, so you have to assign your legal entity to primary ledger. First step. Okay, this is the first step. You have to assign legal entity to primary ledger so that within the primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have, those we can assign to legal entity. This is the sequence we have to follow. Now take the same point. Say, assign legal entity to primary ledger. Okay, assign legal entity to primary ledger. Why we are assigning? If we don't assign legal entity to primary ledger, within the primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have, those we cannot assign to legal entity. The mapping cannot be established. So that is the reason we are assigning legal entity to primary ledger. When you assign legal entity to primary ledger, there will be connectivity so that the mapping can be done, which balance and segment value belongs to that legal entity. If you have 2 registrations, when you run the business in US, create 2 legal entities, assign 2 legal entities to primary ledger. For first legal entity, you may assign this 2 balance and segment value. For second legal entity, you may assign this 3rd balance and segment value. Based on reality, we assign. Otherwise, you are doing 3 different businesses: consulting, financial services, BPO. For 3 different businesses, you want to go with a separate registration. Possible. You can go for separate registration. Then you will have 3 legal entities. Legal entity 1, 2, 3. 1,000 you may assign to legal entity 1, 2,000 to legal entity 2, 3,000 to legal entity 3. Which company under which registration you are running? That's what you have to specify. The first step is we have to assign legal entity to primary ledger. After that, within the legal entity, within the primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have? Those we have to assign to legal entity. Say, assign balancing segment values. BSV values. Simply we call it BSV values. Okay, can I call department values as BSV values? Can we call department values BSV values? No.
Only when there's only when the balancing segment is added to department.
Yeah. To which segment we are assigning primary balance and segment label, that segment values only we call as balance and segment values. Okay. Assign balance and segment values to legal entity. Okay. Assign balance and segment values to legal entity. So this is what we are going to do. After completing this, we can complete our primary ledger. Okay. Our primary ledger status is in process, right? That we have to complete. We'll see those. So here we just completed, we created primary ledger, we specified ledger options, and we discussed about how to load the geography data. We create a legal address. The legal address, we create a legal entity. Now we have to assign legal entity to primary ledger. Go to our project. So search for the task called as assign legal entities. What we are going to do, we are going to assign legal entity to primary ledger. Say assign legal entity. The task name they are giving as assign legal entities. That means assign legal entities to primary ledger. Now click on this task. Task name is assign legal entities. Click on this task. And you want to assign the legal entity to which primary ledger? This primary ledger only. How system is selecting the primary ledger here? How it is selecting? To specify the ledger options we selected here. So wherever primary ledger selection is required, automatically it is defaulting. Now, if you want to assign the legal entity to this primary ledger, you can click on go and you can assign. This primary ledger it will select. To this primary ledger, you can assign our legal entities. Say you want to assign your legal entity to other primary ledger. Then click on the primary ledger and you can select you want to assign the legal entity to which primary ledger. Which primary ledger you want to assign, select that primary ledger and say save and close. So to this primary ledger, you can assign your legal entity. You can see somebody assigned the legal entity to that primary ledger. This is how you can assign. Okay. So here I'm trying to explain how you can switch to other primary ledger if you want to assign legal entity to other primary ledger. Now select our primary ledger. You want to assign to our primary ledger. Yes. Fine. So the selected scope, we have our primary ledger. That means we can assign legal entity to this primary ledger. Okay. This is a task. Click on go to task icon. So to this primary ledger, we are going to assign the legal entity. Click on add. What is our legal entity name? Amex USA legal entity. Search. Select. Okay, and click on apply. Click on done. The legal entity can be assigned to one primary ledger only. Now the same legal entity you cannot assign to other primary ledgers. It won't be available. Okay, one legal entity you can assign to only one primary ledger. But to one primary ledger, you can assign multiple legal entities. You can assign one more also. Click on add and you can assign another primary ledger also, which is not assigned to any primary ledger. Those only it will display. These all primary ledgers are not assigned to any. Sorry, these all are legal entities which are not assigned to any primary ledger. You can assign based on the reality. How many legal entities we have, those many you can assign to primary ledger. Say save and close. Okay, we assigned our legal entity to our primary ledger. What is the next step? Within that primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have? Those we have to assign to legal entity. When we assign, when you create the transaction, if I'm going to create the transaction, the 2000, automatically system will identify 2000 transaction belongs to this legal entity and reporting will take place accordingly. For the tracking purpose, this mapping will be useful. When we start working on the subledger applications, you can understand how system will fetch this automatically. I will go and assign the balance and segment values to legal entity. So here you can see the task. Assign balance and segment values to legal entity. Next to that, we have one more task. Assign balance and segment values to ledger. You don't need to assign to ledger. So if you have some sort of reporting requirements, and if you create some separate values where you want to consolidate the data as per your reporting requirements, those balance and segment values you can assign to ledger. Reality not at all required. Assign balance and segment values to legal entity only. Don't assign. If you assign here, again you cannot assign here. If you assign here, you cannot assign. Ideally, we have to assign here. Okay. So task name is assign balance and segment values to legal entities. Okay, where we have balance and segment values within this primary ledger. Within this primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have? Those we are going to assign to our legal entity. Click on go to task icon. So in which value set we have our balance and segment values? Amex company. Automatically selecting because Amex company value set is assigned to company segment. To company segment only primary balance and segment label is assigned. That's how system can understand. Sometimes it doesn't display value set here. You don't need to worry about it, but you can find the values. This is our legal entity. Already we assigned this legal entity to our primary ledger. The same it is displayed. Okay, to this primary ledger, whatever the legal entity already we assigned, that is displayed. Now within this primary ledger, within this value set, what are the balance and segment values we have? Those we have to assign to this legal entity. Just click on add. Okay, select value 1000. 1000 means Amex Financial Services. Click on save and assign another. And select 2000. Click on save and assign another. Click on 3000. Say save and close. We don't have any more balance and segment values. Then say save and close. Now you can see the 3 balance and segment values we assign to legal entity. That means we are running these 3 companies as per this registration. That is the meaning of it. Now say save and close. Okay, save and close. And remember one more point. Legal entity we don't require to create the transactions in the GL. Okay, legal entity we cannot use in the GL application. Under reality, we don't record the transactions in GL. All the transactions we create in the subledger applications. That means legal entity also we require in the subledger applications. So note this point. Now go to our primary ledger. Their task we have manage primary ledgers. Click on go to task icon. Find our primary ledger. What is our primary ledger name? Amex USA primary ledger. Search. What is the status of our primary ledger? In process. Now we have to submit our primary ledger for validation. The chart of accounts we submitted for deployment. That means chart of accounts we have in the accounting flex field, or you can say accounting key flex field. By using the accounting flex field, we created chart of accounts. The entire accounting flex field we submitted for validation. In the same way, we have to submit our primary ledger for validation. If everything is fine with our primary ledger, system will update the status as a completed, or you can see confirmed. Status you can see confirmed with green color tick mark. That means that primary ledger is ready to use. That is the meaning of status. Okay, now we'll see how to complete it. Here, we don't need the data, but that is simple point to understand. I'll explain that. Now here we have Oracle database. Okay, Oracle database. The Oracle database, you can have a tables. Oracle database, you can have a tables. So what are the setups you do and what are the transactions you create? Everything will get stored in the Oracle database. Sorry. Okay, what are the setups you are doing? You are creating calendar, you are creating primary ledger, you are creating legal entity. These all are setups. What are the setups you do? Those will get stored in the Oracle database in the respective tables. For every setup, there will be separate table. Calendar information will be stored in one table. Legal addresses data will be stored in one table. And legal entities data will be stored in one table. Certain setups will get stored in the multiple tables also. That's how the setup data will get stored in the Oracle database in the tables. In the same way, the transactions. You may create requisition, you may create the purchase order, you may create GRN, you may create the sales order. All the transactions data also will get stored in the Oracle database respective tables. Now, so in Fusion, Oracle is providing one reporting tool called as HFR. Okay, that is Hyperion Financial Reporting, or else this you can call as FRS also. FRS stands for Financial Reporting Studio. FRS, Financial Reporting Studio. HFR, Hyperion Financial Reporting. FRS, Financial Reporting Studio. Right. Now, here, if you want to use this reporting tool, this is a reporting tool. You can call with any name, both are same. Okay, since this is a Hyperion product, we call as a HFR, or simply you can call as FRS. Both are same. With this tool, if you want to prepare the data, the transactions data should be available in S-based database. Why it should be available in the S-based database? In S-base, you can have multi-dimensional cubes. Here, data will be stored in the tables. The transaction data will be stored as this as a transaction. But in the S-based database, you can store the transaction related balances directly by using multi-dimensional cubes. If the transactions data is available in Oracle database, with this transactions data, you cannot prepare the reports with this tool. This transaction related data should be available in multi-dimensional cubes in S-base. And the reason what Oracle is doing is they connected Oracle database with S-base database. They connected. Now here we created our primary ledger, right? Primary ledger, short name is PL. So whenever you complete our primary ledger, this primary ledger data will be copied to S-base. Okay, this primary ledger data will be copied to S-base. Now, whatever the transactions we create with this primary ledger, the data will goes to S-base. That's how whatever the data we have in our Oracle database, the data would be available in the S-base database, not complete data specific. Whatever the data you have in the GL, general ledger application, the data will goes to S-base. From all the applications, we get the data to GL. Already we discussed in the P2P O2C cycle. So all the data will come to GL. From GL, data will goes to S-base so that you can prepare the reports by using HFR or FRS tool. So this is the purpose why Oracle connecting Oracle database to S-base. Now, whenever you complete our primary ledger, system will validate our primary ledger is fine or not. Our primary ledger is fine. Same time, it will copy our primary ledger data to S-base database also. It will create cubes in S-base. Cube is nothing but specific column. Currency, as per our Oracle database, we call as one field. In S-base, we call as cube. Okay, period. In Oracle database, you call as one column. As per S-base, that is a cube. So this is what we have to understand. Okay, it's purely related to finance, but since we are creating the primary ledger, we have to understand what happens. Now, let's go and complete our primary ledger. Okay. So here you can see one task called as review and submit accounting configuration. Okay. Review and submit accounting configuration is nothing but complete primary ledger. That is the meaning of it. Which primary ledger you want to complete? This primary ledger only. Already is there in the selected scope. Okay. Amex USA primary ledger. Just click on, go to task icon. Now click on submit. Here you can see to this legal entity, these 3 balance and segment values are assigned and all details you can see. Say okay. Now go to scheduled process page. Tools, scheduled processes. Now system will trigger the process to copy the data from our Oracle database to Essbase database. Click on refresh. Now see here, this is the job system triggered. Complete accounting configuration. System will verify. System will verify our primary ledger. Primary ledger means how the chart of accounts are created, how primary ledger is created. When system validates, it will identify the errors if anything wrong with your chart of accounts. So you created chart of accounts with some special characters. Now this process will end with error and it will generate the log file. And you given the space in the chart of accounts. Giving space means like this. So you created segment called as company. After company, if you give space and save it, that also system will treat as a special character. So when you create the segments are within that chart of accounts, whatever you create as it is, don't give any additional space before you save. No space. Company you enter and save it. That's all. Company space. After company, you are going to enter some data as ABC, that is okay. In between these 2 words, space is allowed. But you enter company as a segment name, if you give space, that space it will treat as a special character. Now system will fail this process. And you should not give any special characters like the dollar symbol or percentage, okay, or at the rate or slash dot, etc., etc. Don't use any special characters when you create the chart of accounts, because chart of accounts is very sensitive information. You should not disturb that by providing some special characters. If you provide special characters somewhere, somehow it will get mad. So that is the reason, don't provide any special characters. Don't give any space after giving some segment name or value set name or anything else. These are the points we have to understand. Now system triggered the process. If you create the chart of accounts with any mistakes, without any special characters, without any additional spaces, this process will end without any issues. Okay, this is a process system triggered complete accounting calendar. Now see what system is doing. Load chart of account values. It is loading the chart of accounts information from our primary ledger to, okay, from Oracle database primary ledger to Essbase database. That means it is loading chart of accounts data from Oracle database to Essbase database. And it will create the cubes equal to columns in EBS in our Oracle database. It will create the cubes. You see here. The 3 jobs. Okay, create balance cubes. Means each column what we have in our Oracle database, it will create as a balance cubes in Essbase for reporting purpose. These 3 jobs are completed with the status called as succeeded. This is what we need. Now you can go and check our primary ledger status. Go and check our primary ledger status. After this 3 job status is succeeded, you can find our primary ledger status as a completed. The system point of view, you can see as a confirmed. Go to implementation project. Open this. Okay. Go to primary ledger. I'll search for manage primary. Manage primary ledgers. And click on, go to task icon. Okay. Now search and find our primary ledger. Amex USA primary. Enter. Our primary ledger status is confirmed. Within our primary ledger, what are the chart of accounts we have? Okay, the same chart of account, it created as a balance cubes in Essbase. Okay, same. Sorry, yeah, this is a chart of account, right? This chart of account is copied into Essbase. Balance cubes means Essbase. This is a copy. Not only this, it will copy the calendar and other details also. but it won't display here. You can see as a copied in a space. We no need to go and touch a space. Okay, no need to do anything. Oracle established inbuilt integration between Oracle database and the S-based database. We no need to touch. Even technical people also no need to touch. Okay, that is inbuilt integration. Okay, inbuilt integration which comes along with the product. So this is all about creating primary ledger and creating legal entity and doing the mapping between balance and segment values under legal entities. Finally, we completed our primary ledger creation. Right. So we no need to create the transactions with the primary ledger. Okay, being a finance consultants, the finance people can use this primary ledger within the GL, but this primary ledger is required for us in a supply chain management applications. In any application, we need primary ledger. Since we created this primary ledger, we'll create single transaction so that we can understand what purpose we are assigning this primary balance and segment label to company. We'll get the clarity there. For that purpose, in tomorrow's session, we'll see how to create transaction by using this primary ledger. We'll discuss and we'll see in the system. After that, how to design the solution when we do the implementation for any company. Those points we'll discuss in tomorrow's session itself. Okay. Tomorrow's session, how to create simple transaction by using primary ledger. Then we'll discuss about how we can design the complete solution. Based on that, we will start doing the setups. That means we will get into our core area of supply chain management application. But so far, what we discussed, what we are doing, this is also very, very important. We are learning without knowing these basics. Directly, if you jump into supply chain management, so many things you cannot understand. What are the primary ledger you are going to use? What are some other stuff you are, whatever we required in the supply chain management application. If you are not creating what base there somebody created and all, you cannot understand. Okay. So that's all for today. If you have any questions on today's sessions, you can stay back. We can discuss. If no questions, we'll connect tomorrow. Thank you all.
I have one
Any
question.
questions from anyone, please? Yeah.
Yeah, I have one question. So can you go back to the application?
Tell me what is it, where you have question, you can tell
So
me.
question I have is around those implementation project. So why I see the selected scope as MX in your setups?
Because I selected MX here, we specified ledger options, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no? Have you attended
Yes.
last session?
Yes, right.
Yeah. So there at that time the scope was empty. When you click on go to task icon, it will ask us, you want to set the ledger options for which ledger? We give an Amex USA primary ledger. That is the reason, same it is defaulting wherever ledger selection is required when you work on those setups.
Okay.
So that means these all are ledger specific setups.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
We given. That's the reason it is showing. If you want to go to other ledger, you can click on the same ledger name. You can change the scope. Okay. Say for example, for this primary ledger, you want to set the ledger options. You want to provide the returned earnings account. Select, click on apply and go to task. Here you can provide the returned earnings. Already they given. It's created by somebody.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So that's all. See now for everywhere the same ledger is selected. Whatever you selected here, the same is changed. Check setting our primary ledger.
All right.
Yeah. Any other questions, please?
And I have one more question. So yesterday I asked you a question regarding the secondary ledgers, right? So do we ever create secondary ledgers?
Being a SCM consultant, we never create. That is a concept of GL. Okay. So if you want to understand, I will explain that concept.
Yeah.
You want to understand?
So I was under impression.
Not required for us. See, not required for us. If you want to understand, I'll explain. Anyway, we're done for today. If you want to understand, I'll explain.
Okay, I think that's okay. I will do some research. So yesterday I asked you one question, like when we perform these transactions, like inventory transactions. So we perform all those transactions against primary ledger. Is that right? So
Right.
we
By using
okay.
the primary ledger within the inventory organization, we do that.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, where I got confused, like, do we need to have a separate ledgers for each and every sub-ledger modules?
No. Same
Okay.
primary ledger you can use for all the applications.
Okay. Now it's clear. Yeah, I think we are good, Lakshman. So regarding the secondary ledgers, maybe I will just go through some documentation. So purpose of it, we really need it for SCM. Okay.
Yeah. For SCM, it is not required. That is a part of finance. That is the core concept of in general ledger application. That is one of the concepts. That's all. We have a reporting ledger. We have a secondary ledger. This all we use in the GL for reporting purpose. Say simple. I'll explain you that simple point. Say you are doing the business in US. Okay. When you do the business in US, you need one primary ledger. So you are creating that. You create transactions in this primary ledger in which currency?
USD.
How you are doing the business in US and India and UAE. Okay. Now this is your corporate office. Okay, you have corporate office in India. So you are doing the business in these 3 countries. Do you think you need primary ledger in 3 countries? Yes. Yeah. For
so
US,
we need primary ledger only for transactions, right?
Yeah, I'll explain that. So for US, you need US primary ledger. For India, you need India primary ledger. For UAE, you need UAE primary ledger. For each country, separate primary ledger. UAE primary ledger. Here you will record the transaction in which currency? INR. Here you will record the transactions in AED. Okay, this is how it works. In every country, you are doing the business, the country specific transaction in that country, local currency, you have to record. So every country we use separate primary ledger. Now, your corporate office address office is in India. Now, what you are going to ask US team is, whatever the transactions you are recording in US, please report us.
Okay.
Please report us. So they are recording the transaction in which currency? US people?
USD.
But our corporate office in India. So India people can ask, what are the transactions you are creating in US, in USD, those you please report us in INR. Then India need US data as it is in INR currency. Now here you will create, for India, you create reporting ledger.
Got it. Which is secondary.
US need to report in which currency to India?
In US need to report in Indian USD only.
They have to report in INR. India need that same data in INR. You create reporting ledger in INR. So there will be mapping between these two. These two you connect. This primary ledger you connect to reporting ledger. In between you set the conversion between USD to INR.
Okay, like those exchange rates and stuff. Like
yes. Okay. Now you will create one transaction in your USA primary ledger. US people will create the transaction amount is say $10. The conversion you set as a 70. Automatically the same transaction data will come to this reporting ledger as 700. Conversion we are taking 70. $1 equal to 70 rupees. So 700 INR.
Got it.
This is the reporting ledger. Now, say for example, in your primary ledger, you have 7 segments. For example, in the chart of accounts. 7 segments you have. But India is asking to report in INR with only 2 segments.
Okay.
Only India currency, different currency means you can use the reporting ledger. Only currency is different, you can use the reporting ledger. Along with the currency, what is the different?
Yeah, shrinking those 7 segments to 2
Segments
segments.
also.
Yeah,
Here,
okay.
whatever the data we have with the 7 segments, if we have to send as it is 7 segments data to India in INR currency, use reporting ledger. But here you have 7 segments. India is asking send only 2 segments data.
Mhm.
Send only 2 segments data. Maybe currency same or different. It could be anything. Now,
Okay.
so when US is going to report to India, only two, if US wants to report to India for only 2 segments data out of 7, you have to create secondary ledger. With the reporting ledger, that is not possible. Only currency is different, okay.
Only
Other than
currency is
currency, if any component is different, create secondary ledger.
Got
So
it.
in the secondary ledger, we use chart of accounts with the 2 segments. Which 2 segments you have to send to secondary ledger? We have to do the mapping between the primary ledger chart of accounts and secondary ledger chart of accounts. We have some other setups. After completing that, from here, data will come to secondary ledger, only 2 segments data.
Okay, yeah.
Currency may be same. If currency is same, okay, or else between primary and secondary, also we use conversion.
Okay.
2 segments in INR, or else 2 segments data in USD only.
USD.
So these are the concepts in the within the GL. Once data is available in the primary ledger, how you want to report? You want to report in the different currency, use reporting ledger. You want to report in different currency plus different chart of accounts, use secondary ledger. Yep.
Got it.
So when you are going to work on SCM, we never touch this, not required. Just to have a idea, you may just go through. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Lakshman.
Yeah, thank you. So any questions from anyone, please? So no questions. Great. Okay, we'll connect tomorrow same time. Thank you all.